Hey guys, Resident Evil 7 is out and it is the shit. It is the tits. It is the bee's knees and the cat's pajamas. It is all that and a bag of healthy, gluten-free chips made with sea salt. Alright? It is basically, well, almost everything that I told you it would be. Um, I could think of a few things to make it better, but I can't even say that because this is a spoiler-free video. This is really meant to give you the hype and make you go out and get this game because it's fucking badass. It is a return to form. It is just an awesome Resident Evil game. I wouldn't call it a perfect Resident Evil game. It's definitely not a perfect game, but compared to Resident Evil 6, which did some things that were pretty unforgivable and lame. But and I like that game. I mean, those of you who watch my videos, you guys know I've defended Resident Evil 6 quite a bit. But there were things that they took out of that game that were dumb. Like they removed your ability to upgrade your weapons. They gave you this lame skill system, but you can only equip 3. Oh, and then when you beat the game, you can get up to 8 skill sets of 3 skills each, and why the fuck not just all of them? Why not just equip all of them? Because you only, if you have to pick 3, there's really only 3 I would go with, which is, you know, melee, firearm, and what was the other one? I don't remember. Oh yeah, defense. It was defense. But yeah, and defense because, you know, there was no way to upgrade your health or anything like that. And it was just so lame. That game was very, very linear, and that was one of my biggest problems with it. And this game, it doesn't have, you know, really any kind of. You can't upgrade your weapons. You can repair broken weapons, and it's very much like the old days of Resident Evil. I mean, there are a few things that you can do to upgrade your character, but you know there is no new game plus, so it's very much like an old Resident Evil game. So much so that you can unlock certain things if you beat the game under a certain time limit or fulfill some other conditions, and there will be some things in the first item crate you come across that you've unlocked, and that's just like the old days. In the old days, you had new costumes, new weapons that you could receive just by meeting certain conditions, and this game is like that too. So because it's more of an old school style of game, I'm cool with the elements I've mentioned before being missing from this game, whereas Resident Evil 6 expected you to play through 4 main campaign modes without any of the good stuff that made Resident Evil 4 and 5 good. Which, and yeah, and again, that was one of my biggest problems with Resident Evil 6. But because this game plays so much like an old school Resident Evil game, not having those things in this game is fine. I didn't have those things in Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, or Code Veronica. I mean, the old rules apply here. I mean, they really do. This is also probably the scariest Resident Evil has ever been. I mean, really. I mean, you look at some of the older games. I had my nephews recently play, you know, the remake of Resident Evil 1, and I mean, they were like, people used to be scared by this. I was like, hell yeah, there was never a game like that before. There hadn't been a scary game, a horror themed game, really, that was like Resident Evil when we all first played it. So yeah, that scared the shit out of us. This game really does that again for a whole new generation, and not just that. I mean, really, this is, I can tell you, I've been playing Resident Evil since the very, very beginning, and this one probably is the scariest entry in the series. I will also say this, though, because the game still hasn't sold as well as Resident Evil 5 or 6, actually, believe it or not. It might be too scary. Not for me, but for enough people to where they're not fucking going out and buying the game. They're watching someone else stream it on Twitch or something. I mean, I get that. I mean, I guess it's fun to watch people get scared shitless, but fucking play the game. Don't be a bitch. Just play the game. You want Capcom to see that they did the right thing, right? That they went back to Scary and that Scary is good. Show them that it's good. Go out and buy the game. I don't care if you have to go get a friend with more balls than you to play it. I mean, just buy it and play the game. I mean, it's not really... recently in the news, the Capcom shareholders kind of fucking panicked or whatever after the game's release, but that was because Capcom only shipped out like 2.8 something million copies versus Resident Evil 6's, like 4.5 or something. So because they shipped out fewer copies, the shareholders obviously, panicked. That's how people who deal with money are. They're naturally pretty finicky. But, I mean, look at all the reviews. This game is probably the best reviewed Resident Evil in a long fucking time, probably since Resident Evil 4. Again, which I predicted, this was the ballsiest thing they've done since Resident Evil 4. But there again, Capcom's willing to take risks. That's why this series is still around. That's why everyone, even people that don't... oh, look, somebody went to Whataburger. Yeah. Whataburger's a fast food chain that's down here in the South United States. I'm from Texas, so we have them here. Anyway, but yeah, they take risks. That's why the series is still around. You can talk to people who don't even play games, and they've at least heard of Resident Evil. I mean, yeah, some only really know it by the Mila Jovovich movies. Well, we won't talk about those. But hell, even before there were those movies, people have heard about Resident Evil. I mean, yeah, that was the 90s, but the series is on the map because Capcom isn't afraid to change. And I haven't always been a fan of change. Change tends to suck, at least in my experience. But if Capcom only cared about the sales of their games, then Resident Evil 6, which sold more than any entry in the entire series, believe it or not, I know that's a shock to some of you that absolutely hated that game, but the fact is, yeah, Resident Evil 6 sold more copies than any other entry in the series, and if all Capcom cared about was how much money they made off of it, they would have made this one worse than that one, okay? This one, they actually would have been like, you think we could actually get Michael Bay to come and direct our game, and he can tell us how many explosions and where to put them, and just make it extremely action-packed? Because it seemed to sell really well last time. But they didn't do that. They saw the outcry, the anger toward Resident Evil 6, and it really surprised them. And when you look at how much work they put into it, it sort of makes sense. I mean, that was a game that four main campaigns, really seamless multiplayer, and they intersect, so you could have up to like 4 or 6 players online at the same time, all playing through the main story campaign. It was incredible what they achieved with that game. However, they lost their way. They really lost their way because they tried to be way too many things to too many people, and they saw the feedback and they took it to account, and then they really took a long hard look at themselves and said, you know what, let's go back to the beginning. Let's look at what makes a real Resident Evil game, and let's do it again. Now, even though I love this game, I don't want you to think that that's an endorsement of the switch to first-person perspective. I think it worked really well in this game. I wouldn't change it for this game. But going forward, yeah, I would like to see them go back to third person. But one of the reasons I wasn't, trying to fucking crucify this game before it even came out, like some of those really diehard fanboys out there, is because once upon a time, there was a little game called Metroid Prime, okay? And Metroid had been one of my favorite game series of all time, and then here was Nintendo trying to make it first person, and I was like, what the fuck? Why would you fucking do that? And that was on the GameCube. And I didn't play it. I didn't play Metroid Prime 2 either. When I got a Wii, though, I really needed a game to play, and I saw a trailer for Metroid Prime 3, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll give it a shot. Plus, I had already heard some good things about Metroid Prime 1 and 2. So I played Metroid Prime 3, and it was the fucking shit. I immediately regretted not playing Metroid Prime 1 and 2. So when I saw that Resident Evil 7 was going to be first person, but that and then read that it was going to retain a lot of the old school Resident Evil, elements, I was like, fuck it, I'll play it. It'll be like the old days. But a lot of people won't think it will because it'll be in first person. This game kicks ass, everyone, okay? Full disclosure, this game is the shit. And if you intend to get it on PS4, there's already DLC out for it. You get the DLC early if you're playing on PS4. Now, I know a lot of people are like, really? There's already a fucking DLC a week after the game is out? That's fucking bullshit. Should have been just part of the main game. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I read this complaint once about this game that there's nothing other than the main story. Other than the main game, there's no content whatsoever. I'm like, are you serious right now? That's all we used to get. That's all the game used to fucking be, is a main story mode game, and that was it. There was no multiplayer. There was no extra fucking bells and whistles. I mean, the Mercenaries mode that Resident Evil is famous for, well, not just for that reason, but the famous bonus mode, the Mercenaries, it didn't even arrive onto the scene until Resident Evil 3, okay? Resident Evil 2, the DualShock version, later implemented one, but, Resident Evil 1, even the director's cut only had, the arrange mode, where items aren't placed in a linear fashion. You have to find whatever at random and just hope that it's what you needed. And that was it. Difficulties, modes, settings, changes, you could do all that, but that's it. There was no bonus modes. There was just the main game. That's all we used to get back in the day. Alright? Way, way better alternative than a game that's mostly just fucking multiplayer and not shit else. I'm looking at you, Star Wars Battlefront. Really, you can't be mad at the game for that reason, okay? I'm gonna need a little more than that if you really have a beef with this game. But yeah, there's DLC, and because of the way the game ends, I really want to fucking know some extra details. I really do want more answers, because it's pretty mysterious, and so I'm cool with there being DLC this early, but yeah, I mean, I get people that are already upset. We are also getting a free DLC in March, which will expand upon, I guess, the ending, or the events, behind the scenes leading up to the ending. And that should be pretty exciting too. But and that DLC that I just mentioned that's already out is actually pretty kick-ass. I mean, you get kind of a mode that's like Mercenaries or Raid mode. Not quite. You're making traps and building weapons and shit in the basement, and you're fighting off, the molded enemies, and it's pretty fun, pretty hectic. And then you get the other story mode little content. I mean, and then there's the Ethan Must Die mode, which is also, again, a little bit more like Raid mode, except extremely tough. Everything's randomized. So the game now has some of the extra stuff that people would have, preferred that it had launched with. But I mean, I'm pretty old school. Okay, I come from the old guard, and a game used to just be a game. It didn't have anything extra. So you'll never convince me that this game sucks for that reason. Okay. Now, if you want to just wait until all the DLC is out, so you get more of a complete experience, I'll understand. But I wish you'd play it now, though, because it fucking kicks ass. And part of the reason I make these videos is so that you'll hear about a good game and you'll go out and play them, because so that I won't feel so alone anymore. But yeah, no, I mean, in all seriousness, this game does kick ass, whether you wait to play it or don't. I mean, it is worth getting. It is a great entry into the series. A couple of things you need to know going forward, though. A couple of pro tips, you might say. You saw me block against Jack's attack over there earlier in the hallway, and get used to that. The blocking in this game really does make a difference. I mean, I usually hate games that implement like a block feature, but you still, you know, take damage because it's usually like you don't make it. It doesn't make a difference. The blocking in this will save your fucking life. It really does make a difference. So get used to that. You hold L1 or the right bumper, depending on what console you're playing on, and it will save your fucking life. It really will. It makes a difference. Also, while you may not be able to upgrade your weapons, like I said earlier, there are personal upgrades, like steroids. Yeah, it explains a lot. How do you think Chris got the way he is? Hashtag fitness goals, bro. No, but seriously, I do feel like in the time between Code Veronica and Resident Evil 5, all Chris did was fucking work out and take steroids so that he could kick Wesker's ass. He knew that day was coming. He wanted to be ready. Also, there's no merchant or anything, but you do collect antique coins, so be on the lookout for that. They're very important. You kind of use them on these bird cages that are sort of like vending machines. Some of them contain the upgrades like the steroids. There's also the stabilizer, which increases your reload speed. I've only found that one stabilizer, though. I get the feeling there's probably more. That's another nice thing about playing the game again is I've noticed some things that I didn't notice before, including a pretty awesome part with Jack that I didn't even really know could happen, but it did happen. And obviously I can't talk about it because, you know, fucking spoilers. But my next video is going to be spoilerific, okay? Because this is the kind of game that you will beat, and then the first thing you want to do is talk to somebody else who beat it as well, because it's that kind of fucking game. I also do want to talk about what I didn't like about the game, and even then, you know, I didn't really necessarily dislike it. I just didn't. It wasn't a preference of mine, and there were things that I feel like if they had added or had been in the game, it just would have been. Again, the game has been well received, you know, largely by everyone who's played it. Not with a few exceptions, of course, but that's every game for you. But yeah, there are some things I would really like to talk about. So I'm gonna make another video after this one. And it's gonna talk, you know, heavy plot points, heavy mechanics. I wish had been it had more different kinds of enemies that I think should have been in it. Things like that. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, you know, and stay tuned for the next one. But yeah, if you haven't played it yet, if you haven't beaten it, don't watch my next video. But if you don't care about spoilers, then cool. Or if you've already beaten it, then cool. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, just leave me a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time.